Thujan, let's go.
Give me a sec.
What are you doing?
50 push-ups.
Thujan, my man.
Oh, there we go.
Let's-
Now I'm gonna be out of breath. Okay. Now we got that. I got that Hollywood look nailed. Do I have a pump? No, I don't. Oh shit.
Okay, anyways, so today we're gonna be comparing.
The IOTAVX
Okay.
and the SMSL DA9.
You're literally out of breath.
That's perfect.
Okay, he's actually sweating. Anyways, so today we're gonna be comparing, two different amplifiers at two different price points, but with similar power ratings. So the SMSL DA9 comes around $250.
Yeah.
$250, which the IOTA comes around $500, and you're breathing like a hippopotamus.
That is I.
But anyways, so the IOTA is twice the price, but the power rating is for both around 100 watts. The IOTA is 100 watts into 8 ohms, and the DA9...
it's 100 watts into 4 ohms.
Oh, 4
They're
ohms.
both 50 watts at 8 ohms.
Okay, so there you go. Steak. So they're 100 watts at 4 ohms.
Yes.
For both.
Yes.
The D9 is actually 90 watts at 4 ohms.
Yes,
But that's a little bit of a difference there.
But the DA9 does have a 2 ohm rating,
Yeah.
down to 150 watts.
Yeah, so if that was all confusing for you, we'll have it in one of our B-rolls. But the point being is that these have similar ratings, but one's double the price. And also,
Why is that?
and why is that? And is there an actual sound difference between the two? Because one is tiny. The one that's $250, the SMSL, it's like the size of my hand.
2 hands together.
Two hands
basically, yeah.
together. And then the other one, the IOTAVX, is actually a properly sized, integrated amplifier.
I mean, for
Compact.
an integrated, it's still pretty compact.
Yeah, still pretty compact, but we'll see in the film later on, the SMSL looks tiny beside, like on top of it.
It's like a quarter of the
it's
size.
even less.
Yeah.
So yeah, is there actual sound difference when it comes down to it? I mean, are you saving money if you buy the SMSL? And in fact, you own the SMSL yourself.
Yeah, and I
it's
use
actually
it,
his.
I use it near field, and I brought it in because it seems like an interesting.
And you
person.
actually reviewed it, right?
Yep.
So, take a wild guess. What do you think? You think the DA9 is all you need?
You know what? Probably not, because I know I know better.
Do you know better?
I know better, but it's really price per performance at this point, right? Because
So you think you're gonna hear a massive difference between the IOTA and the SMSL?
I wouldn't say massive, but a noticeable difference.
So like tiny bit.
Yeah.
So we might have to do a blind test.
Yeah. Let's pull the screen.
So these are actually acoustically transparent projector screen because I play projector here. And these actually are really, really cool because they have little holes, which makes it acoustically transparent. So the sound can get through without any kind of, reflection off the screen or stuff like that. So this allows us to do somewhat of a blind A/B testing. But as Thujan will tell you,
the difference was pretty drastic, and
yeah, the difference was too drastic, and we were immediately able to know which one was the DA9 and which one was the IOTA. That much of a big difference. So we're gonna continue on our listening without this screen to give you a better impression of the thing, because the screen, while all acoustically transparent screens are technically acoustically transparent, they do have some effect in sound, and this is what I found through experience.
The IOTA is just so much better, way more engaging.
No comparison?
No comparison, honestly. When it comes down to music enjoyment, the IOTA is what I can get. If you can swing it, it is what it is. I feel so bad because like 33,000 people watch my DA9 video, and they're gonna see me talk, say all these things about the IOTA, and they're gonna be like, "What the fuck, man?"
Yeah, but it costs like double the price. The IOTA.
It does. I mean, like, that DA9's great for the price, but god damn it, when you hear these, back to back,
It's double the price, and you gotta
I'm getting
understand-
so much more enjoyment out of the IOTA.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Like more than double the, like, is it worth double the performance?
It's I mean, if you're rocking speakers like these, you should definitely get at least the IOTA.
Yeah, but these speakers are not that expensive, man.
I mean, they're still like what, thousand something?
Something like that.
The IOTA's like what, like not even a quarter, like a third of the price.
Yeah.
So when you put it that way, it's just get the IOTA. Save up.
Don't you own the DA9, man?
I do. It's great for near field, but for this kind of purpose, dedicated room, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Okay. So for desktop, it's okay though.
For desktop, it's perfect because it's really that bass response, that final grunt and extension that the DA9 really just lacks in this environment.
Jay, what's taking so long?
It's so frustrating, man. See, the IOTA, I think one of the reasons you get something like the IOTA instead of the cheaper SMSL is the binding post. I mean, the IOTA is well placed apart so that you have no chance of the cables touching. I mean, look at here. The SMSL is literally so close to each other that if I'm not using bananas, if I'm using spades, then I have a chance of shorting the amplifier. So I have to be really careful here when I'm connecting the SMSL specifically. And the binding post is not big, it's very small. And like I said, it's a little bit claustrophobic. So it's giving me a little bit of, anxiety connecting the SMSL every single time. Now, another thing though, I have to say, I do have to give benefit to the SMSL because the SMSL has balanced inputs. The IOTA doesn't. So right now we're actually using balanced for the SMSL and RCA for the IOTA because we want to make sure that we're using both as the end user would use. And since people getting the DA9 is probably gonna use balanced in for the best sound possible, we are doing best sound possible scenarios in this case. So right now, with the balanced input, the SMSL does have an edge.
So Jay, what were your initial impressions?
So I think that, okay, so first of all, I heard the SA3 with the PA3, right?
Yeah.
So I heard that combination initially, and then I heard just the SA3 because that's the main comparison we're doing here today. For those of you that don't know, the PA3 is basically an amplifier that allows the SA3 and the PA3 combination to output way more power. I think 180 watts into 4 ohms. So, I like it with the PA3 better. I know some people say the SA3 is better sounding just by itself, but for me, personally speaking, I liked it with the PA3 better. I think it just had more dynamics, way more grunt. I mean, here's an example. I played a track called Hot Spade. Now, this track, if you play it in your system, I encourage you. It is really, really rumbly. It has a lot of deep bass energy and information there. And some speakers just cannot produce it because it's so demanding of a track. Now, when I played it with the SMSL, immediately I was laughing because it just couldn't do it. The speakers started going.
It sounded broken.
It sounded broken, and I thought, okay, so it's probably the amplifier not being able to do this. So I switched it to the IOTA, and immediately the speakers were able to reproduce more deeper bass. Now, with just the SA3 alone, I found that it was snappier than the SMSL. There was more bottom grunt, more heavy hitting bass, more extension. However, it wasn't able to reproduce the deep bass, demanding bass that the track Hot Spade was reproducing. Now with the SA3 and the PA3 combination that outputs way more power, 180 watts into 4 ohms, like Thujan said, that combination had no efforts driving the speakers with that track. Extended down low. By far, it was my favorite combination. And other qualities like tonal characteristics and everything, like sound staging. I think the only difference that I didn't see too much of is the imaging part. Imaging on the SMSL versus the SA3 alone, it was hard to tell apart. But everything else, sound staging, imaging, the side imaging, not the center imaging, and the overall tone of the music, the snappiness, resolution, dynamic control, everything. Like, I wasn't joking when we said this blind test is useless, because the difference is so obvious. And for me, it was so obvious that when I was switching back and forth, I felt almost pointless doing this video. And I'm quite surprised, because the SMSL actually has a 2 ohm rating, which we'll talk about more later. But yeah,
Okay.
is that more than an initial impression?
That was a lot of an impression, but we'll add some more at the end.
All right, we'll go to the next one. Okay, so I think that's the initial impressions, and I think we got a good idea of the comparison there. Obviously, we've heard of DA9 before. You've lived with the DA9.
Yeah.
And we listened to the IOTA for a while now, so I think we got a pretty good impression. Now, I spoke a lot, so I'm gonna let you go.
So I think the big takeaway we can take from here is, even though the IOTA and the DA9 both have the same power specs, the actual performance that you get, especially with the Unify reference floor standard that we used, is completely different. And those speakers in particular scaled as we went up.
Yeah.
And the price difference between the DA9 and the IOTA is it's 2 times, and it's so worth it.
Yeah.
It really is. If you care about filling up a bigger room like this, and you have a dedicated listening space, and your speaker that is doing full range, like the bass, you do need the amp to really get that that bass out of it. Because what we found with the SMSL was the speaker almost sounded a little broken, like when we were playing it loud. And when we were playing those demanding tracks, you can hear the articulation of the driver, it sounds off. Like it's very audible. And as soon as we went up to the IOTA, it sounded more natural. You were hearing notes that you would, look out for that sound okay. But then as soon as we added the PA3, it sounded awesome. And we did notice that the SA3 alone is slightly more brighter than compared to the, the combo when using the PA3 and SA3 as monoblocks.
Yeah, I found that quite interesting and also surprising. Now, there's 2 things that I found very surprising with this test that we did. The first one is the fact that the SMSL, we actually went into the expectation with it being, not gonna be a huge difference with the SA3, at least for me, because it has really good, specs, it measures well, and also it has a 2 ohm rating.
Yeah.
Which tells me that it was, what is it, like
150 watts,
yeah,
which is crazy.
Which tells me that it should drive the speakers better. In Class D amplifiers, technically speaking, should drive speakers better in the bass region.
They do, yeah, they should at least.
But what surprised me was the SA3 demolished it. It demolished the SMSL DA9, and on top of that, the clarity of the Class AB design, like the mid-range, tonality.
It was way more engaging. Like when I was
Sound
listening to music,
yeah,
like you saw me, I was having a blast.
Yeah.
Like it was very enjoyable. The DA9, as I said, even in my review, it's more clinical, a little bit more studio-like in presentation.
Yeah.
And it's, as I said, it's something that I would recommend for near-field bookshelves with, a subwoofer.
But with this being said, though, I think that the DA9 is a more of a I don't want to say neutral. I wouldn't say neutral. I think a little bit more warmer than the SA3 alone. The SA3 alone, I found that the high frequency was a little bit tilted up.
Yeah.
A little bit brighter, at least with the ELAC Unifies, because we haven't heard with other speakers just yet. But with that combination, I found the high frequency just a little bit tilted up, and then the PA3 came in. It fixed everything. But that's besides the point. I think it was snappier, like way snappier, like than the DA9. Like when snares hit, when the singers spoke, and things were faster paced, and the sound staging was just way better on the IOTA than the SMSL. And I think that's just I think it teaches us a lesson too, because like I found that for twice the price, $250, $500, I consider that sub $500 category, where things won't be drastic in change, unless you go to a higher price point. But I think really in the entry level kind of price ranges, like under $500, under $1,000, I think those steps really do matter.
Yeah, they
sometimes.
really do scale.
Yeah.
And again, like the price of those speakers, it's actually $2,000 USD to
Yeah.
pair. And when you have speakers, you know, at that price point, you really want to get all the performance you can.
Yeah.
And when you add, you know, the SA3 and the PA3, that's roughly $900. I mean, that experience, that was great.
Yeah. So the clear winner, we do have a clear winner for this
Yeah.
one. Like on the other one, Votel versus the IOTA, we had a preference, but we couldn't call a winner per se.
Yeah.
Because they were very close. But on this one, I think we can safely say that the IOTA, you know, unfortunately the more expensive one,
Yeah.
in this case, does win. Now this is not always the case, right? Always expensive doesn't mean better, but
Yeah.
in this case, it holds true. And I think that if you are going to spend a good amplifier in a like Thujan said, in a stereo environment, not a near field, then I think that the IOTA is very much more worth it in my opinion.
Yeah. And this kind of shows, you know, what you get when you pay more.
Yeah.
You know, because a lot of people with DA9s,
Hey, sometimes,
maybe,
sometimes not all the time again, but sometimes it's, you know, you get what you pay.
yeah, you get paid for. Yeah.
So that's pretty much it from us. If you like the video, please do like the video. It does help us a lot as a channel, and it doesn't cost you anything. And also consider joining our Patreon if you feel like it. And you know,
Only if you feel like it.
only if you feel like it. And also, you know, if you want to support us to, you know, further the channel, you know, make more entertaining content. And you know, again, if you feel like it. Okay, until next time.